Okay guys, so today we're going to be looking at triangles and reference angles, and we're going to be using those to find trig ratios, trig values. So when we have SOHCAHTOA, you should know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent. But this is what I want you to understand now, is how we can convert these into x, y, and r. So if I draw a picture of a triangle, I always go from the origin out to a point, and we always drop to the x-axis. This would be our angle theta. The angle theta always has to go right by the origin, always. We'll never use that angle. This angle is always a right angle here. So for this angle, this would be what? The OA or H? Oh, that would be the opposite. This would be the what? A, and this would be the H. Now, what if we're thinking in terms of x, y, and r? Well, is this going to be on in the x direction or the y direction? X. So A is always x. O is always going to be what? Y. H is always called r because it would be the radius if I were to think of this as having a circle around it. Okay, that's why we also call this H or R. Now, I want us to write out the sine, cosine, tangent, all this stuff in terms of x, y, and r. So sine is normally opposite over hypotenuse, but now it's going to be opposite, which is y, over hypotenuse, which is r. So go ahead and write these out yourself. If you're not sure what to do, you can look up here. If you did it on your own, double check to make sure you have them right. These are all the reciprocal functions, and they're lined up with their reciprocal value. So to do cotangent, I just flip that over. Everybody okay with that? Now, when we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, we should know that the ratio of these sides always goes A radical 2. That's something that you should have learned in geometry, and it's the basis of trigonometry. Everything you do next year in pre-calc is going to be based off of these 45, 45, 90s and 30, 60, 90s. You just have to understand these relationships. The legs are always the same, and the hypotenuse is always radical 2 times the leg. So instead of using variables, let's just use numbers. If I call this 1, what's this going to be? And then what's this going to be? 1 radical 2 or just radical 2? So if I asked you to now find, say, the tangent of 45 degrees, you would go to this 45 degrees and you would do opposite over adjacent. And what's that going to be? Just 1. Now I'd like you to get out your calculator if you have it. And we're going to check that tangent of 45 that we just talked about. So the first thing you have to check, though, is your mode. Mode is right here next to the second key. Next to the blue key is mode. Go to mode and make sure that when you go down here, instead of having radians, we're going to go over to degrees and highlight and enter. So we have to be in degrees since we're going to check the tangent of 45 degrees. So I'm now going to go tangent 45, and I get 1. Isn't that what we said it should be? All right, what about if we were to do the sine of 45 degrees? Well, now I would have to do opposite over hypotenuse. So what's that going to give us for opposite over hypotenuse? 1 over radical 2. But then we should rationalize that. So what would it be? Radical 2 over 2. So now we're going to check that. The sine of 45 degrees is that. Well, we said it should be radical 2 over 2. Well, those are the same thing, aren't they? The sine of 45 is the same thing as radical 2 over 2. This is the exact answer. This is the approximate answer. Exact, approximate. All right. The other ratios we have to know are 30, 60, 90. The ratio always goes A radical 3, and 2A. I don't want to use A's. I want to use just 1. So if I let A be 1, then what's this going to be? Just radical 3, 1 radical 3. And what's this going to be? 2. So we have to know across from the 30 is 1, across from the 60 is radical 3, across from the 90 will be 2. It doesn't matter. If I would have let A be 5, then it would have gone 5, 5 radical 3, and 10. If I found say the sine of 30, I would have done 5 over 10. Well, what's 5 over 10? 1/2. Isn't that the same as if I do 1 over 2? So that's what I'm saying. Why use these big numbers when you can just use the smaller ones? So that's why we're just going to use the smaller numbers. All right, now getting into the good stuff. We're trying to find the sine of 150 degrees. We're going to draw a triangle in the appropriate quadrant. We're going to draw either a 45, 45, 90 or a 30, 60, 90 triangle based on the reference angle. We're going to use a circle for quadrantals. So if we're doing the sine of 150, I'm sorry. I'm not sure where it is. Okay, got it. Okay, so the sine of 150 degrees. So we start here at 0. This is 90. This is 180. And this is 270. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Which quadrant is 150 degrees going to go to? Quadrant 2. What is the reference angle going to be? 30. That's how far away we are from the x-axis. Now we want to label those sides appropriately. Across from the 30 is always going to be 1. Across from the 60, see, look guys, we created this, dropped this down to make a right angle. So that's 30, that's 90. What's left for that one? 60, right? What goes across from the 60? Radical 3. And then what goes across from the 90? 2. If you remember earlier, I said that the hypotenuse is equal to the radius, and these are always going to be positive. The radius or the hypotenuse is always positive. But x and y can be positive or negative. Is x in the positive or the negative direction? This is negative. Is the y in the positive or negative? Positive. So now we're going to look at our triangle, and we're going to do always from this angle, always right here from this angle by the origin. This would be opposite. This would be hypotenuse. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Do you guys see why it would be 1/2? Let's check it on the calculator. I type in the sine of 150 degrees. And it is 0.5, which is 1/2. Okay? Questions on that? All right. 300 degrees. Can you think of which quadrant 300 degrees is going to be in? Quadrant 4. I go from the origin out, and then I have to drop to the closest x-axis, which is there. What is that reference angle again? How far? 60. The reference angle always has to be between 0 and 90. From 300 to 360 is 60. That has to be 90. That has to be 30. Label your sides. Across from the 30 is 1. Across from the 60 is radical 3. Across from the 90 is 2. We now have to look at signs. Is our x positive or negative? Positive. That's the positive direction. Is the y positive or negative? Negative. Is the hypotenuse positive or negative? Positive. It's always positive. To find the tangent, look back up at tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent or y over x. Here's y, here's x. What's the tangent going to be? Opposite over adjacent, guys. Negative radical 3. Okay? Let's check it. Go to your calculator. Type in tangent of 300. Enter. Well, I need to know, is that equivalent to what I found? Well, the answer I got was negative radical 3. Yes, it's the same thing. So we're good. All right. Do we have other 300-degree angles? So I want you guys to do 3 and 6 on your own. Use the same triangle. You don't need a new triangle because we already have it. Try 3 and 6. All right, you should be finished. Sophie, what'd you get for the cosine of 300? 1/2 is correct. Long, what did you get for the secant of 300? 2 is correct. Did you guys get those right? I want to show you how to check secant on the calculator. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So I would have to type in 1 divided by the cosine of 300. That's how I would find this. I have to do 1 divided by the cosine of 300. 2. We're right. Okay? Questions? Let's go on to number 4. I'm doing this one with you. What's the reference angle? Which quadrant? Quadrant 4. We go from the origin out into quadrant 4, go to the end, however far you want to go out, drop to the x-axis. We just said 315 to 360 is 45 degrees. Well, if that's 45 and that's 90, this is also 45 degrees. Look back up here to see what those sides go for a 45, 45, 90. You have to get to where you just know these. 45, 45, 90s go 1, 1, radical 2. Does anything need to be negative? Which one, x or y? Y. Cotangent is x over y. Cotangent is x over y. So therefore, what's it going to be? Negative 1. It's 1 divided by negative 1. That's negative 1. All right, I need to do this one with you because this is going to be different. Even if you feel like you've got it, you want to watch this one. Does anybody know what makes this different? 180 degrees is going to be where? On the axis. So here's 0, 90, 180. I just put a point there. I cannot create a triangle. When I can't create a triangle, I create a circle. This is what we call quadrantal. Quadrantal means it lies on an axis. Now, I can make the radius of this circle anything I want. Choose a number for me. Eva, choose a number. 2. The radius is 2 for this circle. Tell me what this point would be then if the radius is 2. The radius is 2 for my circle. -2, and how far up or down? Now, if she had chosen 1, then what would this have been? And 5 would have been -5, 0. You see what I mean? You can make it anything you want. Cosecant now. Let's go up here to cosecant. That's r over y. That's r over y. What is the r value? 2. What is the y value? 0. What do we call that? 2 divided by 0. Undefined. Okay, weird answer. We need to check. How do I type it in to check? 1 divided by sine of 180. Look, attempted calculation contains division by 0. Calculation fails. What do you think that means? Undefined. Great. We're right. Okay, switching gears here. Now we're using what? Radians. What is the reference angle? Some people are whispering it. It's 30. Look, we get rid of the top coefficient. It's pi divided by 6 is 30. The reference angle is 30. What is 30 times 11, though? 30 times 11? Which quadrant are we going to be in? 4th quadrant with a 30-degree reference. Isn't 330 plus 30, doesn't that make sense that it's 30? Okay, label your sides now. Across from 30 is 1. Across from 90 is 2, that's 60. Across from 60 is radical 3. Anything need to be negative? Y needs to be negative, doesn't it? But cosine is what we're finding, so that's going to be x over r. So what's it going to be? What's x? Radical 3, what's r? So it's radical 3 over 2. Now, watch when I check this. I have to go to my mode. What did we say this angle's in? Radians. You have to go down and put your calculator in radians under mode. And now you're going to type in the cosine of 11 pi divided by 6. Gives me this answer. Well, we got this answer. Radical 3, over 2. Oh, good. They're the same. So we are correct. This is known as the exact answer. This is the approximate answer. Exact, approximate. Okay? Questions? What's wrong? Everybody okay with this? Okay. What about 3 pi over 2? What's pi? 180 divided by 2 times 3. What kind of angle is that? The thing? Yeah. What kind of thing? Quadrantal. Yep. We're going to stop right there. You guys do it on your own. Figure it out. What do I have? I have a Jolly Rancher. First person to tell me it right gets a Jolly Rancher. Nope. Go ahead, raise your hand and tell me. What do you think, Sam?
0?
Nope. What do you think, Sophie? 1? Nope. Nope.
Am I allowed to use my calculator?
Nope. Even. It is -1. Good job. You didn't catch this ready. Here's why, you guys. Let's just let our radius be 1. R equals 1. This point is over how far? In the x direction, it's 0, right? In the y direction, what is it if the radius is 1? -1. Isn't sine y over r? What's my y value? This is x, this is y, this is r. What's y? -1 divided by 1 is -1. Does it make sense now? Okay. All right, try cosecant of 4 pi over 3. Be giving you hints along the way. Raise your hand when you think you know it. Be brave. What do you think, Ari? Nope. What do you think, Maggie? Nope. Sophie? You got it. -2 radical 3 over 3. See if you can figure out why. We have to do r over y. So r is going to be 2, y is negative radical 3. We don't leave radicals in the denominator, so we get 2 radical 3 over -3, and you can put the negative anywhere you want. But it's negative, you can't really see my negative, let's ignore that. Put the negative there. Okay? Some of you have that and just didn't say it? Okay. Guys, here's the thing. When we finally get to our test, which isn't for a couple weeks, but you're going to have to get that sign right and that number right. You can see that there's a lot going on there, even though it's just one answer. So for this year, I might just take off a point if you don't have the negative, but next year, they just count it right or wrong. They don't even give you any partial credit. It's just like, got to know it. Okay, let's go on here. We're going backwards now. Find the measure of the angle over the interval from 0 to 360. To solve this, I'm going to subtract 1, subtract 1. I have tangent of some angle has to equal -1. Guys, for all of these, you should get 2 answers. 2 answers for all of these types. Okay? So I subtracted 1. I have tangent of theta equals -1. Anybody think they know what one of the answers might be? All right, let's do it together then. Tangent of theta we know has to be -1. What's underneath the -1? 1. I look up here and I see what tangent is. Tangent's opposite over adjacent, y over x. So y over x. Which quadrant would have y negative and x positive? Quadrant 4, right. So I'm going to draw a picture, just like always. Drop it straight to the x-axis to create a right angle. Y is -1, x is +1. How does this ratio go? 1, 1, radical 2. What is this angle then? 45 degrees. So the angle that's going to be one of my answers starts here and goes all the way around to there. Do you know what that angle would be? 315 is right. Yes, that's one of our answers. But I said there should be 2 answers. Well, y could be negative and x could be positive. But couldn't it be that y is positive and x is negative? Isn't that still just -1? So which quadrant is this going to happen in? Quadrant 2. So in quadrant 2, I know x is -1, y is +1, 1, 1, radical 2. What's the angle? 45. So can you think of what this angle would be that goes over to there? Good job, 135. Okay, I'm going to do number 11 with you, and then I'm going to have you guys try 12. Okay, number 11, it's already solved, so cosine theta is by itself. But here's the issue with this one. It has radical 2 over 2. We want this unrationalized to be able to see it better. Unrationalized. Do you guys know what this would have been before it was rationalized? You got it. 1 over radical 2. All you do is you divide the top by radical 2 and the bottom by radical 2. So this is what it would have been unrationalized. Okay, so now I'm going to draw a picture. What's cosine the same as? Cosine is x over r. Which quadrant is going to have x be negative? Two, yep, or 3. So this is saying that x has to be -1. Can r ever be negative? No. So it has to be that x is -1, r is given to be radical 2. Which triangle is it that goes 1 and radical 2? Right, because it goes 1, 1, that's also a 1. So this is 45 degrees, and this is 45 degrees. Give everybody just a minute to think about it, but I want to know, what would theta be? If we start here and go to there, start here and go to there, what's theta going to be? What do you guys think? 135, good Caroline, and what else? 225, awesome. Yeah, it's ugly. 135, 225. Now, I'm also going to give you a little bonus here. Not bonus, but like a little tip. You can also do this on your calculator. You have to push second when you're looking for an angle. You can do second. Actually, let me check my mode. We have to be in degrees. Switch over to degrees. I do second cosine of negative radical 2 over 2. See how it gives me this answer? The problem with the calculator is it's only going to give me one answer. It's not going to give me both. So I'd have to be able to find the other one on my own. Okay. Can you guys try 12 on your own? Get the sine by itself first. Raise your hand when you think you know those answers. Two answers. Sam?
30 and 330.
Close. One of them's right, and you both correct. do you think, Eva? Nope, one of them's right. Eva, say yours louder.
I said 110 and 330.
And I said one of hers is right. Anybody know? Caroline?
210 and 330.
And what's your other one?
210 and 330.
Yes, 210 and 330. Here's why. When we draw this picture, guys, which two quadrants are going to have, this is Y, this is R, which two quadrants to have Y negative? 3 and 4. So we have, this is going to be -1, that's 2, -1, that's 2. What kind of triangle uses 1 radical 3 and 2? 30 degrees. And so 180 plus 30, that's going to be 210, right? And then we have to do 360 minus 30. That's how we got the 330. You guys feel like you could do that now? Like, I think some people just added wrong, we're in the wrong quadrant, things like that. Okay, guys, that's it for today. You guys are doing a great job.